In this video, I will cover arrays and text files reading and writing. Arrays can be considered as a group of variables of the same data type. For example, set of numbers like this. And the syntax of making an array is data type, array name, and the size. So in this case, we have an array of 5 elements of integer data types. So we have defined int, number is the name of an array, and size is 5. Here we have one-dimensional array which is used to easily store and manage data. Note that an array is a collection of items stored at contiguous memory locations. So an item can be accessed through its corresponding index starting from 0. For example, if I want to access the third element which has index of 2, I would write number square brackets 2 and the corresponding element is 6. Similarly, to get the last element which has the index 4 and corresponding item 10. If I try to access the index 5, I will get an error. Similarly, we have two-dimensional arrays where data can be arranged in 2 by 2 matrix such as this. This array has 4 rows and 5 columns. And to create this array in C++, we'll have to write int number and then square brackets, number of rows and number of columns. So here you can see we have 4 rows and 5 columns. And of course the data type is int. Retrieving an item from this array is also straightforward. You just have to provide the row index and column index. For example, in this particular case, second row and third column would get 18. And if you try to access the fourth row, you will get an error because it does not exist. So let's start learning arrays by a simple example. If you want to hold a single item, you can just have a variable. But if you want to hold a collection of items, you need to have an array. For example, if you want to have set of numbers, you can have array of numbers, let's say of size 5. One way to initialize the array is by simply using open and close braces and providing set of numbers, let's say 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. And another way is to use a for loop. Suppose I want to have some integer numbers starting from 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. And to have this data, I can create a for loop starting from 1 going up to 5. The first item should be 2. So I need to write number I minus 1. Because the initial value of I is 1, so I minus 1 would give me 0. So I0 should be 2. And then I1 should be 4, I2 should be 6 and so on. And to have such sequence, I can simply have 2 times I. Since I goes from 1 to 5, so 2 times I would go from 2 to 10. So the items has been stored. Now to print this array, I can create a simple function. Let's say void print array. I can create a generic function so that I can pass in any array and that should be able to print it. And to do that, I need to have an array and then the size, int size. I have used constant variable to indicate that size is constant. So to print an array, I have to iterate from first to the last item. And to do that, again, I'll be using a for loop. This time I can start from 0 less than size I plus plus and just print each item. Give some space and after printing the array, add a new line. So just copy this signature to the prototype section and then call this function. So array is number, size is 5. Now compile and run. So this is the result. Now if you want to print this data to a file, you have to use file input and output streams. And all file related operators and functions are defined in fstream. So I have to include fstream and then get file output stream, which is in offstream. So just create a variable and call it file out. Here you need to specify the location of the file where you want to store the data. So let's say I want to store in a current folder and the name of the file should be even numbers.txt, and I also need to provide a flag or mode to indicate I want to write to a file, which is out. There are other variations of this mode. You can have append to a file by writing app, but here I simply want to write to a file. Now first thing, I need to check if the file is ready, and to do that I will write if file out dot is open. If this is true, that means file is open and ready to use. Otherwise, I must print an error message that file is not available or file not found. So if file is ready, I want to print the data. Printing of the data should be similar to this function. I can simply copy this code and make a new function, print array to file. Along with the array and its size, I need to have offstream parameter ampersand fout. Ampersand makes it a reference variable. If you do not do that, you will get compile error. So only thing you need to do here is, instead of printing to the console, print to a file. So let's make the changes. Cout is to print to the console output, and fout is to print to the file. So I change cout to fout. And same thing I can do it here. So this function will now print data to a file. So let's call this function print array to file. The array is number, size is 5, and output stream variable is file out. I also need to have prototype of this function. So copy and paste. Now let's compile and run. So the output is as expected, but let's see the current folder for this file. It has been created and the data has been stored. So our file output is working correctly. And next is to read the data from a file. So let's say this time around, I want to read even numbers.txt and retrieves its data and store into this array. And to do that, I need to have file input stream variable, which is if stream. I can say file in, and I want to read the same file, even numbers.txt. This time the flag or the mode should be in. Because I don't need output stream this time, so I can comment it out. And I can replace file output to file in and get rid of this function. What I can do, if the file is not found, I can fill in the data through this for loop. So cut and paste. But if the file is ready, I want to read its data. And to do that, I will need a for loop, same as this one, I equals 1. And to read the data from a file, I would need file input, file insertion operator. This works similar to cin. As you read the data from a console, in the same manner you can read the data from a file. So file in and store it into the array starting from the first index. You can also start this loop from 0, it won't matter. So just to summarize it, I have opened even numbers.txt that has this data, and then check if the file is ready, I read the data. Otherwise, I fill up this array using this for loop. And finally, print the data into the console. Oops, I forgot to close the file. I can do that by writing filein.close. Now let me compile and run. So this is working fine.